Hey park friends, it's Shelley and we're back at Hubbard Valley for our sixth and final weekly wildflower report. Now over the last 6 weeks, it's been amazing. We've seen so many beautiful wildflowers and witnessed all the changes in the progression on the forest floor. But as we enter our second week of May, spring ephemeral season is dying down. We're just about complete. There are just a few more flowers that I'd like to highlight, in particular those 2 trillium species that I promised and a couple other unique and beautiful wildflowers. Beyond that, I hope that you get an opportunity to come out on your own to see a few of those things that aren't quite blooming yet and that we're not going to see. But don't worry if you don't get a chance. Spring ephemeral season will come around again next year, as it always does, and we'll get to witness this beautiful display all over again. But for now, let's go out, take a hike, and see what's blooming. Here we have wild geranium. In about a week's time, the forest floor is going to be carpeted in a sea of pink and purple with the blooms of the wild geranium. Each plant can have multiple flower stalks, as we can see here, and then each flower stalk has multiple flower clusters. So when they do open up, it's quite a spectacular sight. The individual flowers are about 5-petaled, and they range in color from this lavender purple color. Sometimes they look more pink, and even can be a dark purple. This one is more of a darker pink. So the variation makes it quite lovely. The leaves are deeply lobed and arranged in pairs along the stem. And the plant grows in patches, so it forms, like I mentioned before, those nice carpets along the forest floor. So if you're looking for a good addition to your landscaping, then you're looking for a hardy ground cover that's also beautiful. This is a very, very great option. Obviously it likes shade, but it will also tolerate full sun. And another final interesting note for the wild geranium is that another common name for it is crane's bill. That name stems from the fact that when the seed pods are formed, they'll resemble a crane's beak. So not something we can see right now. Might be one of those things that you check out in the future when you take a walk here at Hubbard Valley. Our third species of trillium is Trillium erectum, or red trillium, also known as stinking Benjamin, referring to the foul odor emitted from the flower, which attracts flies for pollination. When we're trying to identify this flower, we look at a few characteristics. One is that the flower sticks up above the leaves, referring back to that erectum name, so it's erect above the leaves. We're looking for red colored petals, but also sometimes they can be white, so it's not just always red, even though the name is red trillium. We can have white flowers. And then we're looking in the center of the flower at the ovary color, which also should be red. So those are all the textbook characteristics of the red trillium. When we see our final species of trillium, we will talk about those textbook characteristics, and then I'm going to discuss a few of the variations that might occur in an area where you have both species. So, and that is the case here at Hubbard Valley, which is somewhat unique and special. Here's a unique plant that people seem to really enjoy finding because of the fact that it is unique looking and interesting name. It's a member of the arum family, which contains a lot of tropical plants in the family. So we don't have very many of its representatives here in our neck of the woods, but this one is called Jack-in-the-pulpit. I think it's its name because somebody thought that it resembled the look of a preacher at a pulpit. Now the jack part is actually called the spadix, and it's inside, and it's the part that contains the flowers. And the spathe is the covering or the pulpit. It just kind of gives a little protection. The spadix that contains the flowers has both male and female flowers, which is another unique characteristic of this plant. The plant, as it ages, can change, and the proportion of male to female flowers on the spadix can change. So typically younger plants have more male flowers, and older plants may have more female flowers. So that's unique. Also, if you've ever walked and you've seen one that's much taller, maybe it has 2 leaf stalks rather than just the one, like this one has 1 leaf stalk with 3 leaflets. It can have 2. Those typically are older plants. Once the plant is pollinated, which it gets pollinated a lot by various flying insects, it will produce a really beautiful, striking red cluster of berries. So when you're walking later on in the year, towards the fall, you might see this stalk with a cluster of red berries on top. And that is from the Jack-in-the-pulpit. So the rest of the plant will fade away. You know, the leaves and the spathe will wither away, and you won't see that anymore, but you will see this tall red cluster of berries, and so you'll know that that's where a Jack-in-the-pulpit lives. So here we have our last and final species of Trillium that we wanted to highlight here at Hubbard Valley, and this one is called Trillium flexipes, or Drooping Trillium. You'll notice that the flower droops down underneath the leaves, so hence the name Drooping Trillium. Now the textbook characteristics for this species are the fact that it droops, like I mentioned. The second characteristic to look for would be the flower color. So oftentimes it is white, but it can also be red or maroon in color. And then the third characteristic we look for, just like we did in the red trillium, is the ovary color, the center of the flower, and in this case it should be whitish or creamish in color. The leaves are pretty broad, very wide, so they're much larger than Trillium grandiflorum. Very easy to tell the two apart. Even though the flower color can be the same, they look very different. In areas where Trillium flexipes and Trillium erectum are found together, they're known to hybridize, resulting in a wide array of characteristics that make it harder to identify them. In looking at the flowers at Hubbard Valley, you'll see variances in flower and ovary color and how the flower is displayed on the stems. This is a unique occurrence and just really one more reason that Hubbard Valley is such a special place for wildflowers.